There was not a single positive thing we can take from this race, said Toto Wolff after the Bahrain Grand Prix. That made my jaw drop when I first read it. Surely that can't be true. Is Toto throwing in the towel this season after just one race? Has he really got no faith in his engineers to improve the car? Job roles in the Mercedes factory are being moved around and the team is throwing every single IQ point in the building at their first upgrade of the season. Will it be enough though? Well, let's see if we can work that out. Toto Wolff's summary of his team's Bahrain Grand Prix was unbelievable. Even after watching the interviews, I still don't believe it was him saying the words. In one interview he said, "That was one of our worst days in racing. It was not good at all. We were lacking pace front, right and centre. Hamilton being lapped by Verstappen at Imola last year must have been worse." Or Baku, when porpoising got so bad, Lewis had to be lifted out of the car due to the damage it did to him. Sure, 5th and 7th weren't great, but worst day racing is a huge exaggeration. George Russell was equally defeatist after the race. He said, "Red Bull have got this championship sewn up. I don't think anybody's going to be fighting with them this year, and I expect them to win. They should win every single race this season is my bet. With the performance they've got, I don't see anybody challenging." Surprisingly, it was Lewis Hamilton who was the most positive after the race. "The Ferraris were just quicker than us today. We're the fourth fastest team. We were close for a second and then just couldn't hold on to him," he said. Sure, he isn't singing the team's praises, but at least his comments aren't quite as morale-sapping as Toto and George's. Before we talk about the secret weapon they're going to use to turn their season around, let's just assess the state of the Mercedes team right now. No speculation about what could have happened or what will happen, just the pure facts and what needs to be done to improve the car to a point it can challenge for race wins. They qualified 6th and 7th in Bahrain, behind Red Bull, Ferrari and Alonso. Lewis said he got everything he could out of the car in Bahrain, so let's assume that that's as good as it gets for Mercedes. George, who was the quicker of the Mercs over one lap, was 0.632 seconds off Max Verstappen's pole position time. That is a big gap, but it isn't unassailable over the course of a season, especially considering how limited Red Bull's development is this year. It was in the actual race that Mercedes' worries were on show. Lewis Hamilton, the first of the two drivers to cross the line, did so 50.977 seconds after Max Verstappen. Over the course of the 57-lap race, that means Mercedes were 0.894 seconds a lap slower than Red Bull. That is a huge amount of time to find. The bad news doesn't end there either. Once Red Bull were running in 1st and 2nd and had a reasonable lead over Charles Leclerc, which was around lap 30, they started telling both drivers to lap 0.7 seconds slower than they thought they needed to pre-race to maintain a lead. That means that the Red Bull team were confident they could have gone 0.7 seconds a lap faster than they actually did during the race and still managed their tyres to get them to win. So on race pace, Mercedes could actually be around a second and a half a lap slower than Red Bull. We won't know for sure until someone actually pushes Red Bull and we see what they really have left in the tank. Mercedes might be able to close that qualifying gap of 0.632 seconds, but finding a second and a half a lap in race trim is pretty much impossible. So why are Mercedes so far behind Red Bull in the race? Problems with cars in Formula 1 can normally be attributed to one of two words: downforce or drag. You want to get as much downforce as possible with as little drag as possible. Less drag means you accelerate faster and achieve higher top speeds. More downforce means you can corner quicker and your tyres last longer. Hamilton was the 4th fastest through the speed trap in qualifying and 6th fastest over the finish line, so we can assume that their drag is nice and low, so that isn't the problem. The issue is that they have no downforce. If they try to corner quickly, their tyres slide because there isn't enough downforce to stick them to the road. When tyres slide, they degrade, becoming more slidey until you can't drive on them anymore and you have to pit for new ones. I've simplified this right down for you, but Mercedes' problem is they have no downforce, so they're destroying their tyres far quicker than the cars ahead of them, so they can't go as fast. That problem is exaggerated during the race, when you have to have the same tyres on for a long period of time, unlike qualifying where the cars only do one fast lap on a set of tyres normally. Alright, that's what's wrong with the Mercedes car, so what are they going to do about it? Normally, you'd set a fire under your technical department, get them working as hard as possible and come up with a solution. But a large number of senior staff from Mercedes have moved to other teams in the last few years, so they just don't work as well anymore. Instead, Mercedes are going to bring in a secret weapon by giving one of their most senior members of staff a demotion and force him to get his hands dirty again. The team's technical staff, led by Mike Elliott, have not been able to do their jobs. They couldn't fix the W13, and now the W14 has problems as well. So Toto has given James Allison a temporary demotion to try and get the team working again. Allison was Mercedes' technical director before Elliott, designing some of the best cars the team had ever seen, and has since moved to a CTO role. But with the heat starting to reach boiling point behind the pit wall of the constructor, Mercedes is utilizing every possible tool to regain dominance on the track. Apparently, the first big upgrade for Mercedes was planned for Imola, round 6 of the season, but that was before the team seemed to give a death sentence to the W14. I know we have said recently that Mercedes can't have another concept ready to go if they don't like the current car, because of the budget cap. What they could do though is make the decision that W14 isn't good enough, and instead start developing a new idea now. That is going to be a long and painful process, which will probably see them fall even further down the grid as the season goes on. It could mean no more upgrades for the W14 until the W14B is ready, and that could easily take the rest of the season. Ted Kravitz spoke about the reality of Mercedes' situation and what it means for the team. Why is it then that Toto calls it one of the worst days in racing, said Kravitz. I think it's because the reality has struck. They know where they are now, there's no messing around. There's no more talking about fuel levels or anything like that. This car has not worked. They give it one more chance, and already, Toto is calling it a day after one day. That does explain why Toto called it his worst day. This car is the culmination of this winter's development, last year's development, and at least a year of development before that as well. You're talking about at least 2.5 years of work that needs throwing in the bin. That's gotta hurt, but it's the technical department that I feel sorry for the most. They've had their names dragged through the dirt by the public faces of the team. It must be hard to sit at home and watch Toto tell the world you've done an awful job for the last 2.5 years. Toto has called for the team to make radical changes to the car to get competitive again. So radical, Wolff said, that Mercedes could learn something from Aston Martin with their AMR 23. While the car has at times been billed as a green Red Bull, it is powered by Mercedes and has the same pull rod suspension layout that is a signature feature of Mercedes. The gearbox is also supplied by Mercedes. I think it's just radical, Wolff said of the 2023 Aston Martin. As I said, they deserve to be where they are because they did a fantastic job. The good news for us is there is a lot of Mercedes in there, so we know exactly where to pinpoint it. I'm pretty sure it was Toto saying during the preseason that Mercedes would never copy another team. Maybe we'll see a black Aston Martin on the grid later this year. But while Sunday's result was by no means what the team or drivers wanted, Hamilton offered words of encouragement as he crossed the line. The Briton told the team that he believed in them and their ability to fight back. This is the kind of leadership the team needs, not the defeatism being peddled by Toto Wolff, a team principal that's never been in this position in Formula 1. He joined Mercedes at the start of 2013, pretty much brand new to the F1 world, and got his feet under the table. Then, from the next season, they won everything available. Now, the going has gotten tough though. The cracks in that incredible Austrian physique are starting to show. The clips of him losing his mind at the other team principals in the most recent season of Drive to Survive were even more embarrassing than I expected. He lost a lot of respect from the rest of the team principals that day. You could see it in how they responded. His negativity is not going to get Mercedes out of the hole they are in, and it might be the thing that finally makes Lewis Hamilton retire. I hope he is praying, because his secret weapon, James Allison, needs to work miracles, or people are going to start asking questions of Toto's credentials. Do you think James Allison can turn the team around? Will Toto change his tune and bring some positivity back to the team? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and while you're down there, hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with everything happening in F1. Until next time, drive safe and bye for now.